Thanks for joining us. This is Kelly, malpractice attorney, with us for the hour and taking your phone calls, talking about some of these cases. We've got some images and some cases to talk about. We had someone waited through the break with a call, so let's take her and we'll go to Linda first. Linda, good morning. Hi, Linda.
Good morning, y'all. I don't want to beat a dead horse on this, but since your last visit, I have printed out all of my documentation of conversations on the internet and everything. Doctor wanted me to go, I'm sorry, it's knee surgery, and my leg is still numb, and my foot, bottom of my foot is still numb, not the other leg. Okay. He wanted me to go get an EMG, which is supposed to show the velocity, I guess, or the movement between the nerves down my leg, and found nothing significant with that. Now he's wanting me to go to pain management. And I've stressed throughout this whole thing, it's not pain, it is something to do with nerves. Why is my leg still dead on the left side and the bottom of my foot? So I have already made an appointment for a consult with pain management. They're wanting to know why. I mean, what does he think they can do other than I've already done? Now, my question is, I've got all my documentation. It's been 4 months. How long should I wait to come to you and see if you think there is something that we can do, or do I need to get second opinions from a totally different entity? So I'm just kind of, I know I have the year, so that would make it the mid-June, but I need to have the other one done too, my other knee done. So I want to know, what should my timeline be with you? Thank you very much. Don't want to beat a dead horse, but...
No, you're not beating a dead horse, Linda. This is my suggestion. I would go get a second opinion immediately. Okay. Schedule it as soon as humanly possible. When your doctor's saying the nerve velocity studies are negative, what that means is they're not finding any damage along the nerve network. There's no, think of the nerves going up and down your leg as power lines, and they're not finding a down power line anywhere. So he's trying to figure out what's causing this dysfunction, whether it's motor or sensory or both. And he's also trying to think in his mind, well, in the meantime, let me see if I can get her pain under control, even though he doesn't really know what it is. My question would be, if I've got pain and or motor dysfunction and a nerve velocity study is negative, I've got to go talk to another doctor to get a second opinion as to whether, first of all, he's interpreted it correctly, and then if he has, what else is going on in my leg that could be causing this, because it's not just happening out of nothing. I mean, there's something going on that's caused her problems here. And oftentimes it's getting a second opinion that will help clear up the mess, and hopefully she can get fixed. But sometimes it's hard for patients to leave that first doctor. There's a loyalty that goes with that. I get it. Right. I've been with my doctor. He's retiring, unfortunately, but I've been with him for 15 years. Would never think to leave him. I would stick with him
the same way.
Yeah. So I understand, but when you're not getting answers to serious questions, you need to go get a second opinion first, because what I would end up doing if she called me is I'd say, Linda, I can't pass on this until I know what's wrong with you. And my expert probably wouldn't know either until she gets more definitive testing.
Second opinion, then, always worth getting.
Absolutely.
The whole question of pain, in her case or any other case, pain, how hard? It seems to me like medical science still has a lot to learn in terms of treating and diagnosing pain. How difficult is that in some of your cases when someone, for whatever reason, is suffering a lot of pain after a procedure, but they can't figure out what's causing it?
Yeah, it makes things difficult, because juries, they've been watching CSI now for 2 decades. They expect there to be a medical definitive explanation for why someone has a condition, something you can put up on a board and see, or a CT scan, that sort of thing. So I'm wary of cases where I can't prove cause and effect. I've got the effect, I believe the patient, believe the client, but without a cause, I'm going to have the defendant and or his insurance company or the hospital's insurance company say, you'll never be able to prove cause and effect, and therefore you can't get your case to trial.
Makes sense. You have to be able to prove cause and effect. Let's go to Denise next. Denise, good morning. Hi, Denise.
Hi, good morning. I have a question about non-physical injury. Say that you were being seen for a mental health problem, and the service or the clinic that you were being seen at became negligent, like preventing you from seeing the doctor because you have like a $50 BOD, or not wanting to complete medical documentation for your employer, et cetera. And they're very abusive in this manner, threatening that you will be removed from the clinic if you keep asking for these documents. And you need these documents so you can continue to get the proper insurance benefits that you need for this help. And I know that you normally just do physical injuries, but what about those type of things?
Well, Denise, it seems to me the first issue you have is, are you at the right place? And I don't mean like, are you at the right place, select them in the first place, but should you go get a second opinion or go see a second clinic or second doctor? To me, what you're talking about are customer satisfaction issues or patient satisfaction issues. I wouldn't put up with this. Now, Denise may not have a choice, because that may be because that's whether it's workers' comp or because of her health insurance, she's guided to these people. But, squeaky wheel gets the grease. I'd get out of there as soon as possible, go to somewhere else where someone's going to treat me with respect. So, because mental injuries or treatment for mental illness is very serious, and it needs to be treated seriously. And when people act like this with a patient and make their mental injury that much worse, then all you've done is take a patient who was already trying to get treatment and make them worse. It's like throwing salt in the wound. Get away from these people. Go see somebody else who treats you with respect. Just like if you saw a lawyer and the lawyer wasn't kind to you, go see another lawyer. You don't deserve to be treated that way.
She may need to start from ground zero, though, if she's not, whatever reason, able to get her records or whatever they've done in the past at that place. If that's what it takes, you just go. I mean, how should she be able to get hold of her records?
Well, that's the beauty of a second opinion. She goes to see somebody else. They're going to request her records from the first clinic, and they will make sure that those records are presented to them so that they can do a proper evaluation. It all starts with patients taking charge of their own destiny and saying, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm going to go to somebody else who treats me right.
She brought up an interesting point, and I don't know how much over the years you and I, and we've been together for a long time, have talked about this. Have you ever handled cases involving malpractice with a mental patient, maybe misdiagnosis of a psychotic drug or something like that? Yeah,
the cases that we've had are cases where a patient was in a mental health facility, it's usually a hospital, and was discharged prematurely and committed suicide. And we had two of those cases, and they are extraordinarily painful. They're also difficult because anytime you get into a patient's mental illness and the background involving that, there's a lot of curves and eddies. It's a little hard to explain here, but we have a psychiatric expert who looks at these cases to determine, was the patient released properly or prematurely? And it makes a huge difference because, nowadays the statistics are patients who are depressed and actively suicidal, if they get proper treatment in a hospital, the vast majority will never attempt it again. But you got to make sure that patient meets certain milestones to get to a point where there's a good handoff to outpatient treatment so the patient can continue on getting treatment for the mental illness. You get them out of the hospital too quick. It's just like failing to sew up a gunshot wound. It continues to bleed and the patient dies. And so those are the types of claims that we've handled that specifically involve mental illness, and of course, what's worse than suicide?
We'll take a break on that note. When we come back, the number is 737-7587. We can take more of your calls, more of our conversation with Clint Kelly right after this.